And we're live. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
This is
everybody.
Fearless Flight Live. Tonight, the crew edition. Our lovely flight attendant, Diane. Hey, Diane.
Hi, everybody.
And our trusty Captain Eric. Hey, Eric, how are you doing?
Hi guys.
We're doing a webinar about posture, right?
Oh, yes, the
Next
sitting
week.
up part.
So,
Eric, attaboy.
there you go.
That's the
If you happen to be new to this show, this is Fearless Flight Live, our weekly live show for anyone who is afraid to fly or who knows anybody who is afraid to fly. Or maybe you just want to learn more about aviation and are interested in our aviation news. But I do want to start tonight with a very important public service announcement, and that is October 25th and 26th. That's our Air Hollywood experience. We have the class on a Friday night at the Air Hollywood studios, and on Saturday, if you like, you don't have to, but if you like, you can then fly with us from Burbank to Sacramento. And the reason why this is really an important announcement, because we always get from you guys who live in the LA area afterwards, oh, I saw the class on the replay. It was so great. When are you having the next class? And usually we do it once a year. So now is your chance. If you are considering it and you don't know what to do, I'll put in the 15-minute coaching call so you can talk to Captain Ron and let him explain to you why this is the most, I'm going to say, unique and also powerful experience. Definitely North America. I don't know. Do you guys know of anything even close to that?
No,
Not aware of anybody else.
not at all.
No.
Closest I know of is EasyJet in the UK. So, and if you can make it to the UK, might as well come to our Hollywood in October. So, definitely sign up for that. I will put the link in the chat. But for now, let's turn it over to our lovely flight attendant, Diane. Diane, I think our topic, the topic that you have is safety first, why pilots avoid bad weather at all costs.
Hey, Diane, are you there?
And yes, Eric, you would.
All right.
You
I
have
didn't
a
want to
ghost voice.
All right. So I want to see what these characters do when I'm gone here. And I seriously, I just want to thank them personally and acknowledge them to all of you for doing this. They give me the night off because I'm old. I just got off my part-time job as a traffic cone. That's why I'm so colorfully dressed. And I did want to make a quick pitch for Thursday night. If you haven't ever attended one of our monthly live group coaching things, Eric hopefully will be there. Dieter, hopefully. And if you're tired of letting flight anxiety hold you back, join our webinar on Thursday night, whether it's turbulence takeoff or just the thought of being in the air. This is going to provide all the evidence and the tools that you need. Don't miss this chance. Reserve your spot today. And I put in the chat, Dieter will send it out to everybody a little bit. There's the desired learning outcomes, what you can learn if you come on Thursday night. And there's a quiz. And only we will have the answers, but you can fill it out and see what it's about. So it's just a little bit of a promo for that. And I'm out of here. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great time.
All
Bye.
right, onward and upward. See you later.
So, Eric, Captain Eric, would you just give a little intro into what I'm going to be talking about weather?
So a lot of you, most of you, pretty much all of you hate turbulence and anything that produces turbulence. And Diane has some great slides showing the flight tracks of flights she worked as a flight attendant that depicts the pains the pilots go to stay out of thunderstorms and convective activity. And she's going to show them so you can talk about them.
Awesome.
Okay.
All
Yes.
right.
All righty. So as Eric said, that the pilots, they don't like flying through weather. They don't like flying through all that stuff, the turbulence, because the turbulence is a trigger for so many of you. And for us, the pilots and the flight attendants, it's annoying. You have no idea how annoying it is. For flight attendants, when there's turbulence, most of the time we have to wind up sitting in our jump seats for a long time, which is boring. I'm just telling you, it's really boring. We would much rather be up and talking to our passengers and helping our passengers. Anyway, so when it happens, when we have to deal with bad weather, as Dieter will show in the slides, this is what really happens. So this is a flight that I worked, a trip that I worked back in 2019. And this, as you can see, we were leaving Eugene, Oregon, and we were going through, the dotted blue line was the original, perhaps, flight plan. And the green line is what we actually flew. And as you can see, it was very nice and normal until, and we were supposed to get to Phoenix. And so we get to the next slide. Oh dear. And so talk about a scenic trip around Phoenix that eventually brought us to Yuma. As we approached Phoenix, there had been a sighting of a tornado in the far north reaches of Phoenix. And I originally thought it was in northern Maricopa County, but it may have been in the county north of us in Phoenix. Anyway, that is literally the flight path that we took as we waited to see if the tornado warning would abate or whether or not they would allow us to land in Phoenix. And we did not land in Phoenix. We wound up being routed down to Yuma. So again, we are not, as I have said to both Dieter and to Eric, it's not that the guys and the gals in the flight deck say, wow, let's just fly right into a storm. Yeah, it doesn't happen like that. So anyway, so we wound up.
Diane, there's a question.
Yes.
How long? This looks like a lot of the question is looks like a lot of circles. How long did that take?
I would have to look on my trip sheet on how long we circled around and around and around. Eric, would you make a guess on how long that was?
If I can do that without getting sick, I'll count the loops. 1, 2, 3.
But yeah, yeah.
Plus the entry. So calling that at least 15 minutes, probably 20.
I was going to say it was probably 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah.
That's the identifier on November Yankee Lima for the Marine Corps Air Station at Yuma.
In Yuma, Arizona. And so the original trip, we were supposed to go from Eugene to Phoenix. And obviously we did not go to Phoenix. We wound up being diverted to Yuma. And so as you can see on this next slide, we started in Yuma in the lower left-hand corner, and we did eventually make it to Phoenix. Those are all storm centers, as you can see. And the darker red, the color, the red, that's bad. That's, to use very poor language, that's badder. That's really bad. And as you can see, our pilot threaded the needle beautifully and took us right through in as calm weather as he could find back up to Phoenix. So we got back up to Phoenix at that point after our little tour to Phoenix. So then we were in Phoenix, and then the next part of our trip was going to Santa Fe in New Mexico. And of course, originally that flight plan would have been a straight shot. Phoenix to Santa Fe is a really short flight and a very easy one. But of course, because of the storms, you can see that we went around the storms. Again, the pilots are not saying, gosh, let's just fly through this stuff because it's going to be exciting. No. We took a very calm route from Phoenix to Santa Fe. And then from Santa Fe, the original part of the trip, was going back to Phoenix. So basically, that was the best trip we could find, the pilots could find. Erica, could you, I mean, if you have I think some of that by the time we got through it was gone, because I don't remember it's being that bouncy.
Right. And when it's just green like that, those radar returns are just light rain. So they probably looked at it, could see that the up and down and turbulence part of it was dying. It was just the moisture being suspended, and they could safely fly through it without too many bumps.
Right. But again, normally that would be from Santa Fe to Phoenix. It would just be a straight line. But the concern is that as they left Santa Fe, that perhaps one of the storm cells would be moving and they would want to try to avoid it. So this whole series of slides, and you can find these things on FlightAware. You can on a specific trip that you have flown, or just for curiosity's sake, it's pretty interesting to see how the pilots and dispatch, how they arrange flight paths to avoid the weather that you're all worried about. So we do not intentionally fly into bad weather. So this one, and I'm looking at my notes here, is from June of 2023. So about a little over a year ago. And I was on a and Eric can appreciate this. I was originally scheduled for a 4-day trip. And I was originally scheduled to be time away from base for about 81 hours, which means from the time I leave Phoenix till the time I come back. And it includes all the flight time and the overnight time when we're in hotels and all that other sort of thing. Was originally supposed to be 81 hours. The 4-day trip turned into a 5-day trip because the weather was so bad. And I was time away from base, wound up being 96 hours. So it was gone from home for 96 hours.
What are those two airports, Diane?
Okay, the DFW is Dallas-Fort Worth, and the BPT is Beaumont, Texas. So this slide depicts the flight from Beaumont up to Dallas. And as you can see, again, we made a very not direct flight because that great big orange circle was right in the middle of the direct. Yeah, there you go, Dieter. Right in the middle. So we needed to avoid that. So that was a much longer flight than it would normally be if we didn't have weather. So that was how part of that trip started, which was, it just went south from there. So the next slide, so the next slide is a Dallas-Fort Worth to CLL, and that's College Station in Texas. And again, you can see all of the big orange and very nasty red stuff. And those are all much more intense storm cells. And so we made a nice big swing around in order to avoid all that. And then we got to College Station. And this is where my 4-day trip turned into a 5-day trip, because we got stuck in College Station. The weather did not move. And we wound up spending an extra night in College Station. We were originally supposed to wind up in Durango, Colorado. We never got there because the storms were so bad and we got stranded. And then the very last slide to show you is we were going from College Station back to Dallas. And we wound up almost in Lubbock, Texas. I mean, that very far end there. The point is almost to Lubbock. Now, that particular flight normally, and I've done that one before, is about, let's just say 30 minutes. And it took us about an hour and 15 minutes to make that flight. So when you as a passenger are wondering, why are we just waiting so long? Why are we not landing and all that sort of thing? And yes, okay, there's storms. This is a wonderful, as my basic algebra teacher used to say, picture worth 1,000 words. These pictures will show you why we do not fly into storms. We fly way around them. We are not going to endanger you as passengers, we're not going to endanger ourselves as pilots and flight attendants, because we want everybody to be safe.
There's a question. Does that not seem excessive? Literally, so I guess my question is for both you and Eric.
Well, Eric can tell.
Obviously,
Eric can
there
probably
may have been other factors
Yeah.
for this
Yes.
extreme
Yes.
loop here.
The answer to
would
that
have been-
question is yes, that is quite excessive. But the reason is because everybody else is flying around a tube and they have to lay you out in a string. So when you call them and say, "Can I go first?" they'll go no and don't ask again, or you'll go number one, and then they have to squeak all the departures out through there too. So now they're trying to jam all these little hummingbirds out through the hole they have to work with. So that's why that is an excessive arrival path, but necessary from the number of airplanes trying to avoid that weather.
And you have to understand that Dallas Fort Worth DFW is one of the busiest airports in the world. And as Eric said, it's not just we're the only plane trying to get in there. There's about a bazillion other ones trying to get in and land and take off. And so we just have to wait our turn.
And so there's rankings, I guess, that are being devised by dispatch and
Yes. By
companies and that kind of stuff. So
Right.
that's all beyond the
Beyond it.
pilot's capacity to choose at such a busy airport, right? So it's not like, oh, I have an idea, I'm gonna go this way. It's like
Just gonna,
all of that
slip
airspace.
in. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So when passengers ask the flight attendants, and we were talking about this earlier, am I going to make my connection? You know, that's that's kind of a toss up. Now, the only good thing about weather like this is if you're trying to make your connection, there's a very good chance that your connecting flight is late too. And so there always exists that opportunity, or that possibility anyway, for you to make your connecting flight. But what it comes down to is we as flight attendants, really, we have no idea whether or not you're going to make your connecting flight. We really don't know, because we're up in the air. We don't know, as Eric and the pilots will know, about all the other planes that are coming and going. So we can say, you know, honestly, we hope you can make it, but we don't have a good handle on that. And we're not trying to evade the answer by any means. We honestly don't know. So, but the whole thing, the bottom line is, we're keeping you safe.
And I will say this, having, you know, traveled a lot across the Atlantic, certain airlines will have the ability, right, to call the airport on international flights, and they can pass that information on, especially if a large number of the passengers, you know, there's one flight that a large number of the passengers are going to go on next. But domestically, like flying in the US or even in Canada, that doesn't exist the same way.
No,
Like,
it doesn't. But you're right. If a flight is coming in, and of course, as you said, the airlines, they know where everybody is. They know where everybody is. They know where all the planes are, and so they know if something is a plane is coming in late, and they have a whole bunch of passengers that are trying to make a connection to a particular another flight. They will literally hold that. They don't do it very much anymore, not like in the old days, but they will try to do that, as you said. And the other thing is that the airlines nowadays, because so many people are connected on their phones, that if your flight is coming in late, then they will text you and say, we have already rebooked you. Or, you know, they will give you an updated, they will give you updated information as to what are the possibilities for you to get to your final destination. So it's interesting. So that's much more information than we have as flight attendants very often.
Yeah, that's true. I've had that before as well. Just getting a text on my phone while I'm still.
And, you know, while all that's going on, we still have stuff we have to do on the plane. I mean, it's not like I can just stop my safety checks or stop my sweep to make sure you're buckled your seatbelt and stuff. I can't just stop doing what I'm doing, or the flight attendants can't, in order to double check on your flights. So we're not trying to we're not trying to evade the question, but we still have safety protocols on the plane while we're working.
You need to know, and you need to execute your next most important move.
Right.
And that's a perfect segue, because our monthly group coaching this coming Thursday, October 17th, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. We're talking all about discovering your next move. Very, very often it happens that the overwhelm and the anxiety is so great that you don't even remember maybe what helped you in the past. And so it almost feels like you're starting from zero again. And so we came up with this discovering your next move as kind of like your cheat sheet, bullet point, so to speak, that you can follow. And on the Thursday, and we have an encore on Saturday, October 19th, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. That's hopefully a lot more conducive for you folks on the East Coast or internationally. Tends to be easier time to make it. So I highly encourage you. And I just want to throw this back actually from a pilot's perspective, Captain Eric. Knowing your next move, you guys plan ahead so that when something happens that isn't, I'm gonna say, scheduled, you know your next move, right? And what does that do for you as a pilot?
Well, I'm not completely clear on it. If we have that kind of severe weather to dodge, we're way over fueled for where we're going. So we have a lot of options to hold and places to go. So we can figure that out fairly quickly in agreement with dispatch, saying, hey, we've got X amount of time left, so we need to go. And dispatch never pressures us into staying. And so we go to an alternate airport. But once you get to the alternate airport, what's going to happen then is up to dispatch and the scheduling, because now the airplane and the crews are in a place they didn't plan on. And they probably got a whole lot more airplanes and crews in places they didn't plan on. And now they're trying to figure out what to do with all of them at once. And
exactly.
A lot of times it's like Diane said, they just throw up their hands and stay overnight there because there's no way they can work through that amount of disaster stuff in one night. They just can't unscrew it fast enough.
Right.
And people run out of duty time and that sort of thing, so they can't go any farther once they've been at an alternate so long. So getting to the alternate is not a problem, and getting dispatch agreement and getting on the ground is not a problem, but getting back on track often can be a problem.
Yeah, everybody, so many times people time out, the pilots time out, they have less time than we do as flight attendants, but when it's this bad, we all time out. And the point is that you could leave, you could take off, but you would time out in air while you were flying, and they won't let us do that. So you have to be able to take off and land without timing out. So, I mean, that adds another layer.
But somebody somewhere is paying attention to all of these things. And
yes.
That's not something you need to concern yourself while you are avoiding the weather. Somebody's already on these contingencies,
Sure.
which gives you the confidence that you focus on the things that you need to do in order to get everybody safely down, whether it's at an alternate or eventually at the destination, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, Captain Eric, we have an update right? On that Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna wait to the end for that and my other story.
Yeah,
Short,
go for it. I mean, we have ultimately the most important thing was to let people know about the 301 in October. Diane made it very clear why pilots and crew really don't like weather, and the most important reason is safety first. And as we had our unscheduled appearance by our fearless leader, um, in very bright attire. He reminded me of one of these safety guys, you know, when you get into the gate.
was doing that was he was coming in from his work as a traffic cone, just wanted to make an announcement.
Yes, so that is our monthly group coaching call, and I posted the things that he wanted us to share. So it's all your turn.
Go
I'll
for it.
try and bump through this, you guys, and I don't want to bore you or keep you too long. And I will say, if there's any questions, we can handle them next week too. It will be an unscheduled crew edition, just the three of us next week, because Ron is flying with a client. So, but I'll jump through some of this, and I hope you find it interesting. I started thinking about when the last hurricane came, what do the airport authorities do when they are preparing for closure, when they absolutely positively know they're going to get creamed, and they are going to have to close, particularly Tampa. There was no doubt the hurricane was going to pass right over the top of them, and they could not remain open. So I just started Googling and looking at this stuff, and it made me very happy that I'd never had a career as an airport manager either. But at some point, the city and the Port Authority and local operations decide, well, we're not going to be able to stay open, and we're going to have to close. And they coordinate that with the FAA, and they disseminate what we call NOTAMs, notices to airmen that the airport is going to be closed beginning X time on X date. So the airlines need, and any other operator using the airport needs to know that and curtail its operations and go somewhere else, because it absolutely positively will be closing. They also make sure the terminal is evacuated. By nature, they're exposed and out in the wide open where they build airports with lots of glass. And it said most terminals are a level A storm shelter. So I looked up to see what a level A storm shelter is, and apparently it's pretty much equivalent to Snoopy's doghouse. It's better than being outside, but not much, with all kinds of exposure and windows and everything, and they don't want any people in there trying to ride out the weather, and they don't want any first responders going out there to try and save people in the airport. So they want the facility evacuated, and then they power down all the airside lights, the taxiway lights, the runway lights, the navigational aids. They cut power to those and isolate them, because they don't want electrical power going through these lights if they're going to take a huge amount of seawater, especially in Tampa's case. And we can go back to Diane in a second. They also, those jetways are nice getting on and off the airplane, but the airport will either physically remove them from the building or secure them to the side of the building. And Diane was on a flight one time with real heavy weather approaching. And then what happened then, Diane?
Well, we were on the aircraft. We had no passengers. We had gotten, and I honestly don't recall what airport we were at. It was at night, and we had deplaned, and so it was just the crew on board, and we were supposed to enplane a plane load of passengers, and there was very, very, very bad storm, thunder, lightning, very close to the airport, and so what happened was that as Erica said, the airport closed. So the airport closed. And so all of the rampers, anybody that was out on the tarmac, anybody driving a truck, anybody doing anything, was all recalled into the airport building proper. And at that point, of course, we were still attached, as attached as you get to the jet bridge, to the jetway. And at that point, because of the severity of the storm and the concern that the jet bridge, if it moved at all, could damage the plane could damage the jet bridge, all that sort of thing. They told all us and everybody else that was there we had to they had to pull the jet bridge away, and we had to close the main cabin door. So we are sitting there on our aircraft completely detached from the jet bridge, which was far enough away at that point so that our physical structure was apart from it. And the wind was so bad, the four of us, because we have two pilots and two flight attendants, it was so bad we were on the plane rocking back and forth. That's how bad the weather was. So that's why we were, as Eric has said, and you can finish up on why we got detached from the jet bridge.
Sure. So they want to keep those jetways away from the airplanes, and they're essentially very, very light and just have that one goofy wheel in the end. And if they're out away from the terminal and the wind can catch them, they can swing and slap an airplane and do immense damage. That's why they remove them or secure them. As far as the airlines go, that's a little easier. They just fly the airplanes off and leave them off site until such time as the weather has cleared and the airport is reopened. But the airlines will have equipment there too on the ground, trucks and tugs and generators and all that kind of stuff. And if they think the water's going to come over the airport, up to sea level airport like Miami or Tampa or something, they can put those on a flatbed truck and drive them a ways inland so that their equipment isn't going to get flooded out. And they far prior to the closure start prioritizing flights so they handle as many outbounds as they can and cancel inbounds. During the weather event, when it is closed, the airport still has to keep an adequate supply of standby generators on site for when the weather has passed, so that they can power themselves up. Even if there isn't external power available to the airport, they can start resuming powering things up, and they have to keep fuel there for the generators to run that. They also need alternate ability to communicate besides cell phones in case cell towers are knocked down, so that they can communicate with the FAA and other authorities and each other as the airport opening. I put tongue in cheek what they do afterwards. I said, put everything back where it was. Yes, but then they prepare to issue the notice to airmen that they're opening. But before they do that, when they power things back up, it's not as easy as it sounds. The lights and the high intensity lights, if they've been submerged or exposed to salt water, they got to make sure everything's dried out. And apparently the liquid crystal lights do much better with that than the high intensity lights. But some places it's unavoidable, like approach lights, where they need to have high intensity lights for the operation, and they have to make sure that those are all dried and not contaminated with anything before they power them back up, so they won't blow out one at a time. And evidently saltwater corrosion starts very shortly after exposure to those light fixtures. So that's an issue. The other thing is the circuitry for all the navigation aids, the instrument landing systems, and any other sort of navigation facilities available on the field have to be cleaned, decontaminated, and dried before they can power that back up. And then they got to check the signal strength and accuracy before they use them. And then after all that, they can turn stuff back on and the airport can be reopened. And I thought you guys might be interested in that. I really had no idea the extent of everything an airport did before I started looking at this. And then I had a couple of funny stories, and they're short. I'll only keep you a couple of minutes. Hey, Dieter, do you have that slide?
Yes, I do.
Can you throw that up? So you guys remember us talking about this ground accident in Atlanta, and there it is. And a wingtip of a Delta A350-900 smacked the tail of this RJ900 series and knocked it off. And there's the picture there, and the NTSB, sometimes being humorous without intending to be, is slowly releasing information. And there was a statement from the captain released today, which made me think he was quite brilliant. he said he was looking at opposing traffic on the inner taxiway and did not notice the RJ backed up short of the hold short line when he hit him, which I thought was a really smart answer, because the other answer would be, yeah, I saw him anyway, but I was having a bad day and a rotten trip, so I just decided to hammer him. So I think between those two answers that he picked the better answer. But
It's a better one.
the investigation is still ongoing. This one's even better, and I don't have a slide for it. I don't need to make it up, but I read somewhere every airport has issues. Tampa and Miami have hurricanes, and Fairbanks, Alaska has wild animals, lots of wild animals. And a lot of the Alaska airports have wild animals as well, plus birds. Well, Fairbanks has commissioned Boston Dynamics, who is a noted robotic company, to build themselves, and they did build themselves a $70,000 robotic dog-shaped thing, and they're going to use it to chase the birds and the wild animals off the airport. This thing's about wolf size, and evidently they can paint it and or even put wolf skin on it to make it scarier looking. It can be controlled by an operator with a tablet. But the scary part of this thing is it is sort of AI capable. I mean, it is AI capable, and it looks like the Terminator's dog. And I'm wondering how long it'll be before the robot figures out, hey, I'm wasting a lot of battery power chasing these animals all over the freaking airport. I can go to a Girl Scout raffle and get a high-powered rifle like everybody else has in Alaska, and I can start whacking these things and save myself a lot of energy. But nevertheless, this is a pilot program, and we're going to see how this works out for the robot and the wild animals and everything else.
No.
The last one I'm just making up, but they really do have a robot. They really are going to chase animals off the airport with it. So if we get any updates on how that's working out up in Fairbanks, you'll find out right here.
There you go. Inquiring minds want to know.
Absolutely. I do want to quickly just yes, Katie asked if there's going to be any flights from Phoenix anytime soon, and yes, we have a 301 flight class on November 9th, and I just put the link in the chat. So the way this class will happen is the Thursday before the flight, there will be a webinar and pre-flight webinar, and then meeting at the airport early, going through everything one more time, and then flying as a group. I'm not 100% sure whether it's to Burbank, I believe. It's Phoenix to Burbank and back. And yeah, so that's on November 9th. And which reminds me one more time, if you do live in the LA area, or if you can make it to Los Angeles on October 25th and 26th, we're gonna be at Hollywood on a Friday night for the class, and then on Saturday, I think it's noon or so, we meet and fly to Sacramento and back. And Katie asked, can I bring my ESA animal? Well, Katie, if it's
emotional support animals are no longer authorized. It either has
so
to be
nobody can. There used to be you could have like a certain.
There's a difference. There are only two categories for pets on the aircraft. One is a cabin pet, for which they have to be paid for. That's a different thing. And then there's service animals, and that's a completely different category. They need to be authorized, trained. There's paperwork that needs to be submitted by the passenger to the airline, and there has to be documentation of the animals.
So if Katie has all of that required information,
they're not emotional support animals. The FAA did away with that category some time ago, quite a number of years ago. And so the only two categories are cabin pet and service animal. So she would have to she needs to understand whether or not her animal is a service animal. And that's a very, very specific category.
Katie, my best advice to you is to reach out to Capt Ron. I will
For the airline.
yeah, and just what the not so much for the information, but just about
Right.
she's
yeah.
asking what's required for a cabin pet. So is there a fare?
Yes, the cabin pet is an extra fee and
Okay.
different. And I don't know what the individual fee is for specific airlines.
Well, that would be Southwest that we're flying with,
You
right?
can
So
go onto the Southwest website
she
and
would be able to find that out.
right, and she'll be able to find out and make those arrangements, but they have to be done ahead of time.
Yeah.
And yeah. So we as flight attendants have to know if there's going to be a cabin pet on board. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then my best recommendation is check out the Southwest Airlines website. You get
Right.
all the information there.
Exactly.
When you sign up for the flight class, you will also get the flight number and all the itinerary as well. So at that point you would hopefully communicate with Captain Ron anyways, and he'll make sure that there's no need for you to stress out and help you make sure that all that is sorted away for the flight on November 9th.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. That was very cool. I loved all your screenshots, Diane. That was really especially
It's like I said, Mr. Rogers taught me basic algebra when I was in 8th grade, and he always said picture worth 1,000 words. And so I have taken several pictures like that over the years, and they really are helpful in explaining to passengers what really happens, where we flew. So yeah.
Yeah. And why?
And why? Yeah. And why the flight attendants are sitting there going, oh my God, I'm so bored. Yeah, exactly.
Well, safety first. Eric, thank you very much for it's always learn something new listening to you. So that's why I would encourage everybody to come back next week, because we have another crew edition coming up. Captain Ron is flying with a VIP coaching student. Oh, Mary said just returned back to Atlanta after 5 days in Iceland. Listened to audios by Captain Ron and Captain Eric discussing the stages of flight. The audio was so helpful. Got me through my flights. Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thanks so much, Mary. I really appreciate that, because I think you were listening to the Flight Deck Confidential 1 and 2 maybe. It really is cool to have both of you guys talk about what you guys are doing up front, during the different stages in flight. So definitely, if you don't have that, check out our website or join our Fearless Flyer Club. Katie, how do I get into the VIP club? I'll get you the link. I'll just put the link in there. 3 different levels: the premium economy, first class level, and the VIP level. And there's also a little comparison matrix, what you get with each. And if you have any questions, I'll put also the link to schedule a free 15-minute coaching call with Captain Ron, and he can help you figure out what's best for you right now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to you two, as well as all of you who are watching and taking time out to join us. And I hope to see all of you next week.
Thank you, Dieter.